I am Natercia, and we are here with Dr. Andy McCabe. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself today?
Since we're focusing on the book, I'm a college professor, and I work at New Jersey City University, and this is my second book, How Women Will Change the World.
And that's this book right here, How Women Will Change the World.
Yeah, it's the second of a trilogy, and the first book is called The Gifted One, and that was a novel, self-help book, that is a story about the world's greatest healer. I had done counseling for many years and thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could meet the world's greatest healer, whoever that person is. So I invented him. I had traveled around the country and met all kinds of interesting people and put together a novel as to what this person would say, and how he would teach someone. And in the first book, the Gifted One, he teaches someone who's a kind of a down and out writer who commits a random act of kindness, and as a result gets chosen to be one of the people to change the world.
And that's The Gifted One, A Journey Begins.
Gifted One, Journey Begins. And then I did this one, the How Women Will Change the World. A friend of mine who was born on the island of Lesbos, a great guy, he's written over 30 books, and he said to me one day, why don't you write something about Sappho, the first woman to start a finishing school for other women. This was like 500 years before Christ.
Wow.
On this island of Lesbos. So I had the idea. He and I then went there for 10 days. I actually got to visit where Lesbos had where Sappho had her school. And then I came back and wrote How Women Will Change the World, which is a story about a young lady who is the reincarnation of Sappho's scribe. You know, back in the day, because they didn't have computers or anything to record, someone wrote down everything. So in the second book, Sappho's scribe reincarnates in New Mexico, and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she gets chosen to be one of the people to again change the world. And her initiation comes after she also commits a random act of kindness, and there's a messenger in both books who tests people. So that's what happens with her. She goes through some training with the Gifted One on his ranch in a desert in Arizona, and after she finishes, she comes to work with 70 women who have been chosen from around the world to be trained to know what they need to know to make world changes. So that's kind of the gist.
You believe women have been trying to change the world for a long time?
Yeah, I do, but what's kind of interesting and what really is so appropriate now is with the women's marches that everything is changing. And the Dalai Lama had said this about 2 years ago. This is also what inspired me. He had said, Western women will change the world. I'm a big fan of the Dalai Lama. Not that we hang out together, it's not the case. But I just think he's terrific. And when he said that, it resonated with me, that Western women will change the world. And I've been involved in working with autistic kids for 30 years. And I was at the Autism One conference for the last 2 years where I was a speaker. And one of the things I noticed is that with autistic kids, the people who are making a difference are almost all women.
Wow.
It's the moms who really get involved and help the kids. And I met a group of ladies who came together, the Thinking Moms Revolution, they call themselves. And their editor-in-chief is Zoe O'Toole, a wonderful lady who's been also the editor on my second book. And what I noticed in meeting these gals is that they are so driven to help their children. Not that men aren't, but it's different. And what I see happening is the power of women coming together to make a difference, let their voice be heard. So in this book, what I did was I had these women come together to get a special training, and this training includes 7 really unique stories that they're told at night and when they're at the Hotel Grand Britannia in Athens. And my friend and I went to Athens, went to the Hotel Grand Britannia, and so it was kind of really neat when I got to finally write the story and then include these 7 unique stories within the story to teach women how to think outside the box. And so this is not a book for, either pro-life or anti-life or pro-abortion. It's a book about power, and it's a book about balance, because as I say in the beginning of the book, that the great problem I see in our society is that whenever there's no balance, when it's all men or all women, it doesn't work.
Yes.
And so what I would like to see happen, and what's kind of the driving force in the book, especially at the end, is that women will come together to become more involved in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Because once there is no balance now, as we know, very few women.
Right.
But as they do, the voice that comes out of that balance will be, I think, safer for the world. And also, women are not as quick to send their children to war as men are. It's not that men don't care about their kids, they do. But the mama bears say, before my son or daughter is going to war, I want to make sure that we have to go to war.
Right.
And that's also one of the things that's come up in years, that this is, again, not anti-military in any way, because we need a strong military. I'm very pro-military, but pro-military when we let them win, and we go to a legitimate war, where it's actually declared, and where we're allowed to do the things that have to be done for us to have victory. And one of the things also that has upset me greatly is how our soldiers come back and they're not treated well. They come back and they're not given the care they need. So this book is about all of that. And then it's the second of 3. The third one will be a continuation again, but rather than ruin what it's going to be about,
don't spoil.
I won't spoil. We'll talk about that in another podcast, but that's kind of the focus of what I'm doing, and my intent is to not tell women what to do, because that wouldn't work.
Well, that's my next question, Dr. McCabe. What do you think? What are your thoughts on what will I get out of reading this book, of digesting this book?
Great question, and as a result of it, I think you're going to see life in a little bit different way. Not that, I'm a guru, because I'm certainly not. But I think what I've done is provided with these 7 stories, 7 outside-the-box ways of thinking about handling a variety of situations that moms have to deal with. There's a mom in there who has a boy who's getting involved in a gang. There's a woman in there whose parents have losing their ranch because of fracking, and the big corporations won't help them. There's a story in here about an African American girl who was born very poor, who was brilliant, who ends up changing major components of big business because of what she's able to, how she thinks and how she can use computers. So a number of stories that are just different than most folks have ever read. And I enjoy doing that, and my goal at the end is to really empower people, especially empower women, to become involved in the political process.
Another question is, my husband loves to read.
Yeah.
Do you suggest my husband reads this book?
Yeah, it's a book that I think men will also relate to, and also it gives men a little bit of an idea of how women think, because in doing this, I talk to a lot of ladies. They said, how do you feel about this part? How do you feel about that?
Okay.
So it would enhance the fund of knowledge for a man as well, but it's also exciting. Both books are exciting, and 2 of my editors had said that The Gifted One reminds him very much of the Celestine Prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if I could make just half of the money that he made, I'd be very happy.
That's
and,
right.
So in the first one, I would love to have become a motion picture because of the setting. The setting includes the underground at 33rd Street in New York, war zone in Cambodia and Vietnam, Buddhist temples, a whole series of work in Arizona on a desolate ranch owned by the Gifted One. And it just goes on and on where I can see the visuals, happening in a way that said, boy, that'd be a great movie.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am with both of them. And anything else that you can think of?
So, Dr. McCabe, as a result of your book, what would you like to see happen?
I'd like to see people think differently, being able to listen to both sides of arguments, because right now we're living in a situation where Group A will not talk to Group B, and Group B will not talk to Group A. What I'm looking to do is have people listen, but also empower, to think about, okay, if you have strong feelings, then do something. And the only way to do it, more than marches, is become part of the political process. And this isn't a book, again, for either side, but rather to get people to think about the world, future generations, what we want to have to be part of our daily living experience, and probably finally just I want people to, as a result of reading this, come away with a sense of hope that things can get better.
Dr. McCabe, how can we get our hands on one of your books?
Amazon.com, and also I have a website, citybearpress.com. They can go to my website, where there's also lots of other things that I've written, a number of short stories that are also on there, and a listing of projects and programs I've done. But Amazon is the easiest way to do it, and both books are on Amazon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
And thank you.